Welcome back to the lab, folks. So I'm going to finish up that amplifier today. I've been doing some stuff in the background. What I did here's the main circuit board out of it, and I've replaced all the capacitors. Now the ones that were in it weren't terribly bad. The new ones I've got lower series resistance, but the other ones, the series resistance might have been a little bit elevated, not much, and the capacitance was okay on them. They probably could have gone another 10 or 15 years before they became really troublesome. But I thought since I had it open, I would replace them. Now, what I've done here, like some of these capacitors here, I didn't have axial leads. I did for this, but I didn't for the rest of them. I had radial lead capacitors. And what I do then is I'll take one of the wires, usually the positive wire, and I'll bend it back down around the body of the capacitor, then put a piece of heat shrink over it. Now, let me show you how I do that. So I'll take the capacitor like this, I'll bend the positive wire over like that, and then kind of bend it up a little bit at the end. Then just put the heat shrink around it. And heat it up. And voila, you have an axial capacitor. So it's one way of doing it. You could just order in all the axial capacitors, but this is the way I did it. Okay. I've got it all hooked up here to an oscilloscope. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like now, because when I did replace all the capacitors, I also found there's a lot of horrible flux residue on the back of it that kind of turned black and brown, stuff like that. I cleaned all that off, and now magically the distortion's all gone. So I don't know whether it was the capacitors being replaced that got rid of the distortion. I mean, these are only filter capacitors. These ones here and these ones are all just filter capacitors. This one here is the only capacitor, it's not a filter capacitor, and I got something else to say about that one. But now, all that distortion that we were having before is completely, well, not completely gone, it's 99.99% gone. So here's this capacitor. This capacitor here is this one here. Now if you look at this circuit carefully, you'll realize that it really is just a differential input operational amplifier. And this here is the gain feedback circuit here, this 100K and this 4.7K here. So what happens is at very low frequencies, there's no divider here. So basically you've got a gain of 1, and then as the frequency goes up, the gain gets higher and higher. And so I changed this to a 10 UF, and it really did improve the bottom end. I can't see that though. I mean, look where it is in the circuit. Like this is where all that horrible distortion was, right there. And so I can't see this capacitor here having anything to do with it, and I can't see these bypass capacitors having anything to do with it. But there you go. This one here though is in the gain loop of this operational amplifier, although the operational amplifier itself did not have any distortion on it. The distortion occurred only after, on the other side of this capacitor here and this capacitor here, so from here through. But now I'll show you on the scope up there, and right now I'll show you that. Look at that green trace there. I'll put that on the output. We are on the verge of clipping on the output, so we've got this right here. We're going to pop it a little bit more here, and you can see that we're clipping. So we're right on the verge of clipping. We've got maximum output and very, very, very little of that original distortion there. You can see now as I turn this pot here, this is the treble control, the one that goes between this and this. And you can see the output is the green there, and look at the phase change as we go through here. Now you can see on that output there, you can see just a little bit. If you look at the green trace there, you can see just a tiny little on the downslope and on the upslope there, a tiny little deviation, and that's all that remains of the distortion. But as we change this control here, you can see how the phase changes. So the bottom trace there, the purple trace there, is the one coming off the 220 nanofarad capacitor, and the blue trace is the one coming off the 3.3 nanofarad capacitor, and that's the one that seems to put that little blip in there And you can also see that that little blip lines up with the peaks in the yellow trace above, and that yellow trace is the one coming off right out of here, out of the operation amplifier. So that's the yellow trace there. This here's the blue trace right there. This here's the purple trace right there. And this here is the green trace. We're not seeing that kind of distortion we had before. And you know, that tiny little bit left there that only occurs when we're blasting it this high, and we're right at the point of clipping. Again, it could have been the capacitors, and it could have been the flux, or it could have been a combination of the two. I don't know. Anyway, this is all done, and I'm going to just reassemble it all and put everything into the cabinet. So let's get on with that. On the cabinet here, I put a light coat of paint, black paint, on the speaker mounting board because it had a whole bunch of places where they had glued things on or scratches in it. You remember the way it looked. So this blacks it out. So when I put that grill cloth over it, you're not going to be able to see any of those marks. And I've just put the chassis in here, the empty chassis in here, so that I can build a frame for the grill cloth. And what I had to do, like if you put a speaker in there, I had to resize some wood that I had to be able to fit in there. It has to fit in there fairly nicely. So what I did is I on my table saw, I ripped up some wood so that it would fit in there just right. And now what we have to do, we have to cut this up to kind of fit it in there. And then I'll glue the frame together and paint it black as well and put the grill cloth on it. This width here is more important to be accurate if I want a friction fit than the up and down is. And we can have a little bit of a gap there. So I'm not worried about that. So what I'm going to start doing, the first cut I'll make is to make something that fits in here. And so I'll mark this up like that and then cut it and then trim it so it fits in nicely. Then I'll cut the other one exactly the same length. So what I'm going to do is I'll mark that, to put a rough mark on that there. I'll cut it on that mark and then come back and size it. Okay, let's see if that fits in there. That's a little snug. So I'm going to cut a little bit more off it and trim it down a bit. All right, how's that? Still a little tight. Okay, it looks like I can take a full 1/16 of an inch off there and still be okay. So that's what I'm going to go and do. This is called the friggin' try method. Okay. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. That's just perfect. So I'm going to round the corners off a little bit. Once I build the frame up a little bit, the corners will be rounded a little bit. Now see if this stick here fits in the other end. All right, that's perfect too. All right, good. So now we're going to work on the cross pieces, and we'll make them. So I'm going to get a piece of the speaker cloth. I'm going to put it in here, doubled up. So we have twice the width of the speaker cloth clearance here. Okay, and so I'll just let that down in here like that. And then I'm going to cut a cross piece for the bottom to fit in there nice and snug. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh, that's just perfect. That is just perfect. Now, let's see, is it the same up at the top there? Now, another thing that I did, if you could look at the front panel here, I tried cleaning the front panel, but you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's got kind of like a crinkle finish to it, very, very, very fine. And I was trying to get the dirt out of there, and I noticed that in doing so, I was taking off the silk screen off it. And it did clean up surface-wise, but I couldn't get the kind of crud out of in those little cracks without destroying the silk screen. So I left well enough alone there. Let's get this up here. And now we'll check the clearance, see if the other one's the same. You know, that will work. If I cut the other one the same as this, it'll work. Okay, so here we have it all pinned up. It slides into place. And it does. It's a little bit tight. I'm going to camphor the edges a little bit with sandpaper. And we're going to paint it up. All right, so here's the finished grill. frame is all done up. I painted it black and put the grill cloth on it. So it'll pop in there like that, and it's a nice friction fit, so that's good. Put them in place right now, mark up where the holes will be. Not going to be able to use the old holes because they're a different diameter, different radius. Okay, I found some number 6 by 1 inch drywall screws are just perfect for the job. They're just protruding about a 32nd of an inch past the particle board. So they're ideal for this situation because of the way the threads are designed. They're ideal for going into particle board and getting a good grip. Now we just got to get the amplifier installed in here. Yeah, before I pop this in, I want to show you what I did here. Somebody suggested that I take the transistor wires and move them to the back of the board. So that's exactly what I did. So I soldered them onto the back of the board. That way they're not getting squashed underneath the circuit board between that and the chassis. Okay, we've got the amplifiers mounted back in the cabinet. Connect up the speakers, I guess would be the next thing, and put those knobs on. All right, let's do that. All right, we've got the speakers all connected up. I did check the phase on them. They turned out okay, so that's good. Now, next step would be, I guess, putting on all the case hardware, and then we should be pretty well finished. You see, the chrome pieces cleaned up really nicely. The corners and the handle here, they were pretty rusty, and they came out pretty good. Just use a little bit of a chrome polish on it. There's some pitting that, of course, you can't get out by just polishing. I'd have to refinish them completely and have them re-chromed. Not in the budget. Okay. So you see a couple of the corners there. They came out pretty nice. And the knobs looking good. Now we just got to put the grill on it, see if that even fits. I hope it does. Put everything in place here. Yeah, perfect. That is just perfect. So there it is, all finished. Doesn't look half bad. That's working. Those speakers, by the way, the speaker units I put in there are at least an order of magnitude better than the ones that originally came with it. Getting a little distorty there when you turn it right up. I suppose we're clipping at that point. That's yeah. It got some little scuff marks here. My wife's got a bunch of paints that we can mix up. I'm gonna try and touch those off. Maybe touch these lines up here where the vinyl has shrunk. But all in all, I'd say it's okay. We got a new amplifier. Well, an old amplifier, but it's new to me, and it works. All right, folks, thanks for coming along on this journey. I really do appreciate it. I know that this series has been about as popular as A Case of the Trots, but I enjoyed myself in getting this done, and I had some surprises along the way, and yeah, it's been a bit of a trip. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.